70. Gucken wir mal, was da passiert. Jetzt hast du Ton? Okay, bleibt auch drin, ist jetzt in Ordnung? Super, okay, fein. So, gut. Hello everybody, welcome to the third International Dedo live stream from Düsseldorf, Germany, and we're introducing you from the Visual Pursuit Studios in Düsseldorf, and wish you a very, very interesting evening with lots of stuff on Lightstream, reflected light, parallel beams, and how to use it, how to set it up. Dedo, the man himself, is waiting to greet you now, and he will show you in detail everything you need to know about Lightstream. And we will show you something about the mother of all lamps, the PB70, a little later. So here's Dedo now. Go.
Dedo, du bist live.
Hello, I'm Dedo. Welcome to our third streaming session. It's an international event. Last time we had our friends in Düsseldorf who were leading this event. And we had Moscow and Los Angeles. This time, Los Angeles is not participating. Instead, we'll have a contribution from the United Kingdom. We're here with a great portion of my Munich team. Marco Erdmann, who is leading all the technicalities, and Alex Berkovich, camera and lighting, Franz Koch on the projections, Roman as a support and communications man, and Ute will support us. So it's a larger team, and we will be talking about dedolight Lightstream. We've prepared 13 different sections and chapters. After each one of those, after the second one at least, there will be time for questions and answers. And depending on how long that will take with questions and answers, we may not be able to cover everything that we prepared and may have to shift some of it to the next session. We will also have entries from Moscow and from Düsseldorf and the UK, and we'll start with our friends in Düsseldorf and see what they have prepared, what they have to convey to us. So back to Düsseldorf.
Hello from Moscow. Thank you for invite us, and thank you for watching me.
All right, we're facing some technical problems, so it's back to me now, and we'll show you the setup that we put up in the studio. You see me in sort of a night situation with indoor lighting and the curtain behind me with the blue evening outside. Look at me, it's right now in the middle of a studio. There's a curtain with a fan on it, and way back in the studio you see the PB70. That's a parallel light similar to the air raid lights that you used to in World War II. It sends its light to Pete, the back camera please. Pete, camera 3. All right, you see in the back, you see the 3. There you go. You see the big mirror, and there's a soft mirror. It's size 4, which is very soft. It gives you an overall lighting from the reflected light, and in the middle you have a hard mirror. It's size 2, Pete. 2, yeah. 2, which is not exactly mirror, it's a little softer than direct reflection, and this gives me the punch in the middle in contrast to the overall soft lighting that we have. There's another mirror right next to the PB70, which kicks out a smaller light to the panel that's at the side of my face, giving a small and gentle fill that helps to balance the shadows. Pete, can you give me face on? Yeah, you see there's a light in the side also, see that from the shadow? And when I turn it away, my side of the face gets pitch black. Pete, can you turn it back on so everybody can see it? Here you go. That's just one single panel, 50 by 50 centimeters, number 2. So all together we have 5 panels. We have the small number 1 panel, which reflects the light into the number 2 panel for the fill. We have the number 4 panel, which is the main panel, giving us the soft overall light. And we have the 50 by 50 centimeter number 2 panel that gives me the kicker, the punch in the face, and basically that it's in the core of the soft light. So we have 2 kinds of light from one location. And on top of everything else, we have a small E-flect light that gives us this little sparkle in the background. And you see back here behind the curtain, there's the sparkle. Pete, overall camera from back. Yeah, you see the sparkle on the background. That comes from this small E-flect. See, there's where it comes from. So we have one single lamp with a maximum parallel beam, and this lamp is only using 1.2 kilowatts in power. It can be battery operated, and it's weatherproof, so you can put it out in wind and weather and no problem. And it sends this beam up to 200 meters if you like, and if you need. So you can really do a lot with it, and it's now available in Düsseldorf for rent if you need it. So yeah, this is our small setup. You see it's not much involved, and we have not much on the floor, not many tripods that we need for all of this. And it's a very frugal setup with, yeah, a very nice lamp. Dedo's invention. Back to Munich.
Dedo, du bist live.
Are we going to get live with Moscow, or does that not work?
The hello was already there. So we continue.
Introduction chapters.
Okay. Moscow seems to have difficulties. So we go right into the 13 chapters that we have prepared about dedolight Lightstream, and after the second chapter we'll have the first break for your questions and our answers, and we'll continue that way and see how far we get. Let's go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, Video Nummer 1.
I'm Dedo.
I'm Dedo.
Dedo, the director of photography.
The concept of reflected light is as old as image creation itself. In the past, it was often used supporting other lighting situations. Now, today, we can present it as a potentially predominant lighting practice and a versatile tool, opening creative approaches in many different directions. And then we can also describe some unprecedented advantages, like the concept of creating the illusion of natural light deriving from a very far distance, even in the smallest, most confined space. Dedolight Lightstream practice can also help to enhance the sensation of space and depth, creating a three-dimensional illusion. Beyond that, the Dedolight Lightstream system offers a different character to other kinds of direct lighting. We can and will also elaborate about different lighting instruments and light sources to be used. There we can compare natural sunlight, diffused natural light, candlelight, natural reflection as permanent, still reflection, or as well as a moving reflection. Furthermore, we will talk about the different new reflecting tools as offered within our dedolight Lightstream system. The biggest instrument we provide at the moment is the parabolic parallel beam light PB70. Such parallel beam lights are not new. They have always existed in different versions in the professional lighting and entertainment industry, for special effects. Searchlights have been used to locate flying bombers before the days of radar. For effect, especially at night time, they've been used for many years. Also, in our profession, there are lights that were used for movie lighting. One of those companies involved was called Xenotech. Fantastic parallel beam lights were also built by LP Associates, the company of Leonard Pincus, with whom we were related for many years. Ideally, for our purposes, we want a parallel or near parallel light beam that is clean and also as homogeneous as possible. Now, this is usually achieved with the help of a parabolic reflector. The parabolic reflector on its own is not suitable to provide such a clean, near parallel beam. It needs a little bit of help. Therefore, our PB70 was carefully developed to include several shading rings at carefully defined depth and placement. Also, the light source itself should ideally be a point light source. Therefore, metal halide, HMI light sources are very good. Also, some xenon lights were able to provide such a small point light source. Xenon, though, has some characteristics that are not ideal for movie lighting and skin tones, and many other character evaluations. Xenon lights may be very useful to create moonlight effects at night and in the forest. We spent some efforts in developing a metal halide light and a light source. The commonly used name is HMI, a brand name of Osram. Our lamp is not from Osram. Our lamp features a very good homogeneous color spectrum that continues its excellent characteristics throughout the entire lifetime. In its original shape, it was not the perfect light source, so we modified it somewhat in order to contribute to the homogeneous light distribution and the smoothest near parallel beam of our fixture. There are several aspects to this light that are noteworthy. A, the virtual light source. Working with such a nearly parallel beam light, the actual light does not derive anymore from the light fixture. That means from within the housing of the light, it is to be seen in a virtual light source that derives from way behind the actual light fixture. Now, how would you define the virtual light source? You elongate the outer rays of the beam backwards until they cross. And that's where the virtual light source is to be found. With the PB70, this is between 6 and 20 meters, 20 to 60 feet behind the instrument. This feature alone already helps in many ways for the lighting in most of the productions where it is applied, because it enhances the distance from the working light source to the object. Thus, it diminishes the ill effect of the square law. In other words, when our talent, the actor, moves, the change of intensity is not as noticeable as when the actual light source is closer. Thus, artificially in this way, extending the travel of the light before it arrives to the talent, it creates a lesser proportion for the movement of the actor in relation to the total length of travel that the light has to overcome. Therefore, the change of intensity is noticed much less. You know, of course, that the inverse square law is defined that double the distance results in 1/4 of the light. Now, there are different ways in which we can explain how to overcome these deficiencies. But Dedolight Lightstream with the PB70 light is a very effective tool in this respect. B, the power economy. The PB70 consumes merely a maximum of 1200 watt. But at the same time, the output can be measured as 50% higher than an Arvey 9 kilowatt metal halide light in its narrowest spot position. Thus, it becomes a very effective tool, and it can be used on a regular household output with great efficiency. This is a major step in ecological aspects, green tech, and the media industry. C, comparisons. This PB70 light fixture has been compared to almost everything available in the movie profession. To give an example, for the James Gray film Ad Astra, with Heute van Hoytema as DOP, extensive tests were done, comparing all such other light sources in the attempt to look for a lighting tool that would create the illusion of natural light coming from a very far distance. Now listen to the gaffer who was involved in this evaluation of all different potentially usable lighting instruments. His name is Adam Chambers.
We're doing a movie Ad Astra. It's a James Gray film, and with Hoyt van Hoytema is the director of photography. The PB70. We tested it in camera tests. When we tested mole beams, we tested 18Ks, we bounced lamps into mirrors, we did everything we could think of, and nothing compared to the PB70, and it was exactly what we were looking for. A perfectly parallel and even light that replicated the sun, and it has made our life very, very easy.
Live.
Do we have any questions so far? Some of the other aspects will be covered in the following chapters. So if you have questions in between or at the end, that's fine. We're here to listen and to answer and to discuss. So let's go on to the next chapter.
Okay, nächstes Video.
Here, the many different focusing versions of dedolight come into play. The reasons can be seen in the following. The dedolight optical concept works with two different lenses which are non-spherical. Also, there are different movements and travels of these elements in relation to the light source, and in some original lights also including
the reflector. With this system, which was twice recognized by the Oscar Committee of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, we were able to achieve an unprecedented focus range. Traditional, small-sized Fresnel lights usually show a focus range of 1 to 3. The biggest ones can perform a focus range of 1 to 6. But already the smallest original classic dedolight provides a focus range of 1 to 25. Beyond that, the carefully designed non-spherical system creates perfectly smooth light distribution all the way across the beam from edge to edge, whilst practically every Fresnel delivers a hot spot in the center, or in flood position, a brighter area, an aura on the edge. Thus, we are able to achieve a perfectly homogeneous beam with all our focusing dedolights maintained all the way through the focus range from the widest flood to the narrowest spot. At the same time, we provide a beam that is clean and does not involve a lot of stray light. We call this the clean beam concept. Thus, we're able to achieve also a very narrow beam with far reach, which on its own can contribute to the world of reflected light. Beyond that, the discharge lamps and some of the dedolight focusing lights provide something unique. They also provide even and smooth color distribution edge to edge, which is not common with other focusing lights, which usually show with a discharge light source a bluish rim in the flood position towards the edge of the illuminated area. Thus, we have already taken a big step towards the efficiency of the dedolight Lightstream system. But the biggest step comes with the new seemingly miraculous front-end attachments for all of the focusing dedolight systems. We call this the parallel beam intensifier. For example, let us look at the DLH 400. That is a 400 or 575 watt metal halide fixture with a basic focus range of 1 to 20, provided again by the dual aspherical optics and a triple zoom focus motion, all operated by one single button. Now this light provides an absolutely clean color, not quite common for metal halide lights. And it maintains this quality throughout its lifetime. In the spot position, it provides a 4-degree exit angle, and therefore it has a very far reach and can be placed at considerable distance already on its own, contributing a major step towards the efficiency of the dedolight Lightstream system, the world of reflected light. Now, we add this new and surprising parallel beam intensifier, DPBA 1419. And all of a sudden, we increase the light output by an additional 500%. Doesn't that sound absolutely unbelievable? But it can be proven anytime. You just need your light meter or lux meter, and there it is. By performing this seeming miracle, we don't really change the exit angle of the light. It remains pretty close to the 4-degree original exit, but drastically enhanced output makes it eminently suitable for the dedolight Lightstream system. We have such attachments for each and every one of our dedolight focusing lights, from the 1200 watt metal halide system all the way through our LED systems, all the way down to the tiniest light, the Litzilla light, which works with an 8-watt LED light source and can also start to spit fire once you add the little DPBA 70 parallel beam intensifier.
I don't see any questions so far. Many of the ones that I would expect would be covered possibly in some of the following chapters. So maybe you want to wait until we've gone much deeper into the explanations. And then we can have a longer discussion session towards the end as we progress further. So thank you so far, and let's go on to the next chapter.
Areas of application. The PB70, the parabolic parallel beam light, would usually be employed in drama productions. Now, for smaller teams, any of the focusing dedolights, with or without the parallel beam intensifiers, can serve very well. In television studios, we have employed a 220-watt DLED 30 light with parallel beam intensifier lighting simultaneously 4 reflectors for the frontal and key lighting. As a backlight and effect light, we've used a 90-watt DLED 9 bicolor light, again with a parallel beam attachment. Lighting up 5 reflectors in a row. Further LED lights were used for the background, since such lighting may be regarded as a relatively structured light. It can well be mixed with additional soft lights, the dedolight lid raptor lights, to smoothen the effect and give a more gentle and homogeneous approach, still leaving the special character of the more structured dedolight Lightstream system. Now, such a studio, let's say with a little talk show audience of 5 people, was traditionally lit with about 30 kilowatt. Our lighting would add up to a total of 790 watt for similar light levels. And therefore, again, it contributes to the ecology, as well as creating the minimum in heat generation, thus adding extra savings that would otherwise be necessary for climatization. In traditional studios, for example, if you employed 100 kilowatt, you may have needed 200 or 250 kilowatt extra simply for the climatization system. Now, with this new approach and the drastically lower wattage, the generated heat is also absolutely minimal and may operate with minimal airflow, possibly none at all.
Okay, I have not been fed any questions again, and I'm happy because we can go on to the next chapters and then keep the questions and discussions for later on as we've further progressed. So in that case, back and continue to the next chapter.
Another approach, the dedolight Lightstream Lite system. Mainly designed for the smallest team, the solo creator. Now, the lightest and smallest package with 3 or 5 reflectors, including a choice of ingenious holding devices, this allows the traveling team to benefit from the advantages of reflected light with a ridiculously low weight to be transported and incredible versatility, allowing people lighting in the extreme with one single light source. Of course, this can be elaborated on and expanded to use several of our smallest LED lighting instruments simultaneously to add to the multitude of characters and effects. The dedolight Lightstream Lite system can also be compatible and be integrated upstage in the world of the traditional dedolight Lightstream reflectors. But it is also compatible with the smallest range of dedolight Lightstream system called the dedolight Lightstream Table-Top system. Thus, a multitude of uses come with a set of dedolight Lightstream Lite equipment, but can also be expanded to go larger or smaller, an incredible variety of choices.
This third generation of dedolight Lightstream tools and practice was originally aimed at the classic tabletop. This is something that we will be bringing out and sending to our friends to shoot the application videos in many places, in animation, in tabletop, in food and cosmetics. So at this moment we have only limited footage from that, and at the very end of the show we can add some 11 minutes of some DOPs and people who have applied this already and show their experience. So let's go on to the next chapter. Thank you.
Da wäre eine Frage wegen Gels gewesen.
Wir
haben eine Frage.
Ja, wo kann ich die sehen?
Sonst kannst du es vergrößern hier für mir.
Ja, wäre schön, wenn wir es größer sehen könnten.
Größer ziehen, dass der Chat maximal ist. Sollen wir weiter? Ganz unten, ganz unten. Weiter runter. Ja, das ist meine Sicht.
Okay, what is the question there? We'll have a big question answered part of the end. Ma, where do you recommend using gels with the Lightstream system? Very good question. On the light itself, on the light fixture, on the lighting instrument, you can put any gels you want, and on the big parabol light, 70 centimeter diameter, we've also put gels in parts, having one part of the exiting surface covered with one gel, leaving the other part free, or with another one. So we can make a blend, a continuous change of hue between warmer and colder impressions or different effect colors. When we apply the gel to the front of the reflector, there is a lot of interference from the surface of the reflectors. So better on the light, easy, and when you also look at the efflect, that performs miracles. When you put different gels, concentric or in strips or something, on the light head. On the reflectors, you can be lucky. On the hard reflectors, the ones that redirect the light, it could distort the reflection and do things that you don't want to see. On the soft reflectors that have a wider spread angle, I haven't tried it myself, and I have not heard any feedback from people who've tried that. So that's about the reflectors. What knowledge is necessary to use the Lightstream system? Basically, there isn't much knowledge to be applied. The best tool that you can apply is your eye. This sounds like a joke. In our profession, I have not met many people who were actually able to see light. Because what we see usually is the reflection of light. And to describe the character of light, to describe the changes of it, when you use Lightstream, you may arrive at a slightly different character that some people see and perceive and feel, and others don't. Some of this originally was pointed out to me by Ian Murray, where he says when you use a hard reflector, the light gets polarized. And he showed me his hand. And the structure on the hand looks different in reflected light than it does with direct light because of the polarization. There are many other changes of character of light that you find. There's no book about it yet, so we're trying to convey this in images, creating more and more tutorial videos to show how she has applied it and what results are. So it's a learning curve, and as any learning curve, it involves the courage to do and the courage to make mistakes. That's one of the most essentials of learning. Just go ahead, do it, try it out, and then make mistakes and learn from your mistakes. Price of entry has been too high. Well, yes and no. Good lighting instruments, when they involve specialized optics, will have a price. But with a Lightstream system, when you apply it, it can be the biggest saving ever, because you use one light, lighting up 4 reflectors, and those will light up another 6 or 8 reflectors, and you can light the entire scene doing that. And you save a lot of lighting instruments, not to speak about saving a lot of wattage and being more green tech and ecological, but with lesser lighting instruments, you create the effect that you would otherwise not achieve with many lights. And even the less expensive lights cost money, and many of them cost a lot of money. So using this is potentially a great savings of money once you get into it, once you explore it deeper and learn how to do it. And then some of these things, like the Lightstream Lite, are not very expensive. They may not last a full lifetime, depending on the way you treat them. And what I do here, don't always put your fingers on them, use gloves. Okay. So I think, if you don't mind, we go on to the next chapter.
The dedolight Lightstream Table-Top system. Now, this range of tools is originally conceived to serve the traditional tabletop tasks, with an added variety of effects and efficiency, enhancing the creative approach tremendously. In its basic configuration, the dedolight Lightstream Table-Top system consists of two 8-watt Lithium focusing lights, which can be bicolor lights. Now, those lights can be fitted with the parallel beam intensifiers just as well, to cooperate with a rich choice of reflectors. The front end can also be exchanged for two types of imagers, projection attachments, which allow the highest degree of precision lighting or very defined razor-sharp accents, at the same time still enabling unnoticeable creative effects that still direct the attention. You may remember the film American Beauty. Each rose in that film plays a symbolic role. Each rose was lit with a dedolight in an unnoticeable way. Such unnoticeable accents are created using the so-called eye filters to make a defined effect unnoticeable but still effective. This basic system, Lightstream Table-Top, also comes with a range of 15 different reflectors and unique holding devices. There are many different options to the system, making it useful also for different applications. The very same system may also be used for the lighting of larger spaces. Now, we've already seen entire music video studios lit with the Lithium lights originally. With the progress of this new system, all these capabilities are now vastly increased. If additional push and power and very special effects are wanted, this system, of course, can be enhanced by the use of the DLED2 20-watt dedolight focusing LED lights, or the 40-watt system, as you find in the DLED3, a miniature bicolor light which features all the famous dedolight capabilities. Now, this choice of tools is seemingly endless, only depending on your own imagination and dreams.
The next chapter will not be a very clear guidance how to do things, because it concerns what Alex Berkovich always says when he starts his lighting lectures. He says the rules about lighting. Rule number 1, there are no rules. It's what the story needs. What kind of a story do we tell? And when we talk about light and lighting, we should not forget the big brother of light, the shadow, that can express a lot more of emotions and happiness and fear and unknown imagination. But you cannot create the shadows that you want without controlling the light. But within the light, even there are many different characters and explorations to be found, and by just doing it and seeing whether it fits your story or not. So let's go to the next chapter.
Achieving a structured or a gentler look. Depending on the setting, the subject, the story, and the placement of the reflectors, the lighting with dedolight Lightstream reflectors can give the scene a somewhat structured look. This can be very much desired, but if you want to make this look a little smoother, you can add the dedolight bicolor LED soft lights. These large ones are available in 3 different sizes: 3 feet, 5 feet, or 7 feet, 90, 150, or 210 centimeters. Such soft boxes can add a gentle hue to the scene. It can be adjusted to maximum effect or add a hardly noticeable smoothness. Furthermore, it may be effective to use the additional soft lights in a different color temperature setting, which may benefit the perception of the image. Since this is pure bicolor and not multicolor, we're still staying exactly on the Planckian curve, i.e., skin tones will not be distorted, just made a touch warmer or cooler. Respectively, to the entire scene, or just the backgrounds can benefit from such small adjustments to the color temperature. Soft lights can be added for the entire scene or work predominantly in the foreground or background, or just on the area that's showing the talent. The exit angle of our soft lights can be modified with the addition of a louver, a grid, which limits the exit angle to approximately 40 degrees.
There is a question that's not easy to answer. How to deal with art reproduction. It, to some extent, depends on what kind of art. If you have an entire wall full of Botero paintings, you don't need much art to light it. You just need a certain amount of light that can be provided in many different ways. There are other artworks where you have to determine how you want to show this, especially if you want to show the surroundings, if you're in a museum, whether you want to just enhance the visibility so that people can see details, which leads quite a way away. When you have a big painting on a wall, very often the lighting is on a track on the top, and it shines down, and you have a lot of light on the top of the painting. And the stupid thing is that some of the painters decided to put the sky on the top of the painting, where you may need less light than on the bottom of the painting. And that's usually where we have less light. So how to light art is not only a matter of exposure and lux values. There are many other aspects that come into it. Are your lighting systems going to destroy the art by incorporating too much ultraviolet? or heat, but yes, we believe that there are ways in which you can light art. Often, all you want to do is to have an even, perfectly smooth light. And for that, there is the development on which Alex Berkovich has worked for a long time now. That's the asymmetric Lightstream background light that was originally intended to light backgrounds, even in small spaces, putting the lighting instruments very close to the wall, not having spill light on the talent, but making perfectly even light distribution over a large surface. Now, you can take those lights that are usually in a horizontal application and put them vertical, maybe on the left and right of the art, to achieve perfectly smooth lighting. Long time ago, much of this had to employ polarizing filters in order to minimize the glare on artwork, or especially on oil paintings. So there are many different facets to it, but I think we can answer many of them from our own experience. My mother was a painter. I tried to be a painter. My father was an art historian. He could analyze very well. My mother had a more emotional approach to it. And we transferred that to image making and how to light artworks, be it in my Fra Angelico film, the frescoes that need very different lighting than a Rembrandt or other paintings. And sometimes difficult to agree how paintings should be lit. There's a very famous woman who kind of owned the Pushkin Museum in Moscow, and we went there and we showed her some of the lighting that we wanted to do. And Alex Markelov was there, and we lit the painting, and then we called her and we wanted to show her the different ways it could be lit. And she entered the room and she started screaming, "Switch that off, that is not my Böcklin," because she'd never seen that painting with lighting of any kind. So there are many different ways, but the fine-tuning of this is something that we have experience in, not necessarily with the reflector and the systems that we're talking about here, but let's talk about it. And let's describe, you please, what you're after and what you want to achieve. I know that all of this, when you come from a photographic background, was solved with flashlights. But these days we see that more and more, not necessarily for art reproduction, but for many other things, flash is often substituted or joined together in a marriage with continuous lighting. That's all I can tell you right now. Thank you. And
We're now talking about the dedolight Lightstream reflectors. How are they made? This is not much of a secret. The hard carrier material has been around since about 1960. This type of material was first constructed for race car technology, employing two surfaces of hard aluminum bonded with a honeycomb in the center, making it very lightweight and robust. Such materials are available worldwide through relevant distributors. Now, the reflecting surfaces are also commonly available in many different versions by a company that supplies not only the professional lighting industry, but almost everyone in the home lighting industry. Even the reflector in the 200,000 watt soft sunlight of my friend David Pringle has the same origin. If you look at the ceiling in your own office, there may be a reflector employed from the same origin. The lamination of both of these materials takes a little bit of learning curve. On the rear side of these reflectors, there's a grooved rail. The channel in this rail allows to slide in the looks, which then can be arrested firmly at any place and will accept all kinds of mounting devices of many different sorts. Anything that is featuring a baby stud, a 16mm stud. The channeled rail is also my design, my tooling, my product. I did provide this to other manufacturers of reflectors as a free gift to support professional collaboration. Now, this gesture has not always been rewarded when the recipients of my gift claim that it is their own patent. Now, in reality, no such patents are existing. We presently make reflectors mainly in 5 different sizes. The largest one is the 1 by 1 meter, usually used in conjunction with the parallel beam light, the PB70, to redirect the light with surface number 1, which does not change the exit angle, but merely redirects the incoming beam. Other sizes presently in my production are 50 by 50 centimeters, 25 by 25, 12 by 15, 7 by 10. The surfaces have different structures. The aforementioned reflector number 1 is hard, and it works a little bit like a mirror and simply redirects the incoming beam. Reflector number 2 has a spread angle of about 12 degrees. Number 3 spreads about 50 degrees. And reflector number 4 has the widest spread angle of 95 degrees. Reflector number 5 offers a directional spread, maintaining the virtual light source. Reflector number 1, by simply redirecting the incoming light, maintains the property of the virtual light source and the illusion of light coming from a very far distance, like natural light. Reflectors number 2, 3, and 4 show a drastic shortening of the distance to the virtual light source, depending on the spread angle. The reflectivity of all of these reflectors is pretty much similar, between 95 and 98%. Reflector number 5 again has its own surface, but also has the property of spreading the incoming beam in one direction. Depending on the placement and the distance of the light source in relationship to the reflector, the transition between the reflected spread beam and the unlit area can show a soft and gentle transition or be harder. Thus, the character of this spreading beam can be modified by adjusting and controlling the distance between the light source and this reflector. In preparation, various reflector surfaces, which will be fitted with mechanical attachments to allow varying degrees of spread angles. It's already many years ago that my friend and the DOP and lighting manufacturer Ross Lowell had already created something in the same direction. He called it a variflector. It worked very well, but it did not feature the defined character of the different surfaces employed by dedolight Lightstream.
And it was designed for my own film work and for a few friends who wanted.
The large 100 by 100 centimeter reflector comes in its standard version with a number 1 surface on one side for reflecting the beam. The rear side can also be used. It has a very large spread angle, similar to my reflector number 4. Alternative versions of the same 1 by 1 meter reflector, can be made on special order with a number 2 on one side, number 3 on the other side, or any other combination. For these, there is a surcharge as opposed to the standard version. All the other, smaller reflectors have only one working side, whilst the other side holds the channeled rail for attachment and cannot be used for reflection.
I've neglected to notice one question. It's a valid question, but you may forgive me if I'm not going to answer it, because if I started to answer it as best as I can, we'd be on a 3-hour detour. The question is, how do we use white light and tungsten on a stage? There are many answers to this. It depends on what you want to show on the stage. There are different characters of the light. There's old-fashioned halogen light, which has a very warm, pleasing character and a continuous spectrum. And it may make people feel warm and at home and remind them of the ancient days when people were sitting in a cave around a fireplace. When you use discharge lights, many of those for a long time had a character that didn't make you feel at home. They were efficient, but the worst one was the energy-saving lamps. If you went to a home where people have energy-saving lamps, it would kind of freeze your soul. Today, it's the LED world, and we can have both. We can have the warm tungsten light, and we can go to the cooler daylight. And we can go anywhere in between, and thus we can adjust. Also, our eye will adjust to many different color temperatures. Our camera has the capability to adjust to many different color temperatures. And sometimes it is still worthwhile to explore using different color temperatures in the same image to point out emotions and change the character of your talent. And it's a super interesting subject, but it takes a lot of learning and a lot of experimenting. So these days, the song of the day is LED, and they now have good quality, good color rendition. But when you talk about stage, then you're talking about people. And people come with skin. And the depiction of skin tones is still difficult because you have to discern whether it's for the human eye or for the sensor of a camera. And even when you've progressed and invested 10 years like we did in the developing of the best possible LED color, different cameras may still show this in a very different way. They may distort the color one way or another, depending on the sensor, even if it comes from the same manufacturer. Sony cameras and the A7 show big differences. A Canon 5D Mark II and Mark III give you very different pictures. And thus, we've taken many years to serve the majority of the different sensors. So even on stage, is it for people? Is it for the camera? It's a long story, and we can talk several months about it and maybe not make much sense, but we can try, and there's a lot of experience behind it. And if you want to write to us, we can try and point out some solutions and some aspects But this has little to do with the subject of today, with the reflected light. But it integrates, it interfaces with it. So let's go to the next chapter.
The setup of lights and reflectors. Normally, within the dedolight Lightstream system, we can employ the large parabolic parallel beam light or any of the 23 different focusing dedolights with their unique characters. The clean beam concept, the far reach, augmented and possibly enhanced by the miraculous parallel beam attachment for superpower and extreme reach. With these lights, you can illuminate one single reflector with a surface of your choice, but you can also arrange a series of reflectors in a row, possibly all arranged in parallel angles. None of these reflectors will receive the full power of the beam, they will share the beam. But also it allows to make them all work and be effective depending on their placement and the distance. We can therefore redirect the light with an array of such reflectors parallel and at identical angles. To redirect the light in parallel beams, thus creating, even in the smallest space, the illusion of natural light coming from very, very far distance. Different from any traditional light source that would not produce or replicate the parallel structures which are necessary for the appearance of natural light. Multiple reflectors can also share the same beam. With a 5-stud holding device, you can easily place 4 reflectors side by side, illuminated by a single beam. This is economical because you will only use one lighting stand or suspension device. In one commonly used version, you could have all the reflectors the same size. 2 of those with surface number 1, one redirecting the light towards another reflector to create a backlight, another reflector number 1 reflecting the light onto an extra reflector with surface number 2 or 3 for key or fill light. The third reflector could be used directly on the talent as a number 2 or 3 as a key or fill light. This arrangement then can usually leave a space for the 4th reflector to fill the square. Such a 4th reflector can then be used to illuminate the background, or it could even be used to employ a multi-mirror efflect system. We'll explain that in one of the following chapters. Placing a small reflector in front of a large reflector. Let us say the main reflector is 50 by 50 centimeter or 25 by 25. On the same channeled rail, you can introduce another holding device, a DLR lock, and a longer flexible arm to hold a smaller, independent reflector in front of the larger one. Thus, you can use a harder reflector, maybe number 1 or 2, in front of a wider spreading reflector, number 2 or 3, to create an accent in the same area that is lit by the bigger reflector. Or, of course, you can direct the smaller reflector anywhere else in the set to create a lighting effect or accent. Of course, if you're still not satisfied, you can place several small reflectors in front of a larger reflector, employing the same method.
Greetings to Malcolm. I love you. The question about intensity and what is hard light and soft light, wait for another 2 chapters and we'll go right into it. It's an important, very understandable question, very important question. The other question is, will you make any round reflectors? Most of the time when we place many reflectors next to each other, and if you have a big beam coming in, there would be a lot of light going by one reflector and another. When you have square reflectors, it is much easier to place them next to each other and then angle them. If they were round, a lot of light would go somewhere. But there is a photographer, Roman tells me, he's from Cologne, he's Martin Krolop. We love him a lot, we work with him, and he built a playroom for his colleagues in his kitchen. And he has a dartboard. And he taped off, made a mask on one of the square reflectors to light up his dartboard. And it works absolutely perfectly. I was amazed, it was wonderful, it looked perfect. And me being a little kid in a sandbox, I needed to go on and play. And so I said, let's make masks that we can put on the reflectors to shape the light and so on. And so we cut church windows and round ones and parallel ones. It doesn't work very well. Round is fine. Other shapes can be done by masking off the reflector. But the idea of projecting it then like a gobo and creating shadow patterns, I was disappointed because with a hard reflector, it doesn't give you any spread angle, and with a soft reflector, the shadows don't really play very well. So round, yes, and we're not going to make round reflectors, but there is something that we will have in the future, and we've already played with it, and it works beautifully, and it combines different characters of hard light, soft light, and also the sizes and the character of the reflectors. But that is still to come in the future. We need the chance to go back into a studio without restrictions, without lockdown, so we can do the videos and show you. It's exciting, and it's something that we've been asked about many times, long time ago, and I think I have the solution, and that's for the future. So thank you for the questions, and we go on.
We're talking about motorizing dedolight Lightstream reflectors and how to control them. Instead of the locking device, you can slide a motor into the channeled rail, which will allow motorized change of directions and angle remotely. Such reflector motors can be controlled by manual control. One of the dedolight Lightstream manual controllers allows the control of 2 reflectors. You simply switch to choose which reflector you want to control. And then it has, for each one, a 4-direction push-button device to allow the control up, down, or left-right movement, or both simultaneously, by hand. Such controllers can be fed by V-lock batteries or AC power supply. B, the other version, is DMX control. We have a DMX controller that can be powered by battery or by AC power. It features all known DMX functions, and it has 6 output connectors to control 6 reflectors. Thus, you could give all the 6 reflectors the same address and control them simultaneously in the same manner and direction. Or you can give each of the 6 reflectors an individual DMX address and set them accordingly. You can therefore employ, control, and direct reflectors over a considerable distance without having to climb on ladders or walk on the overhead construction. Now, such methods are particularly beneficial when you want to experience and control the lighting effects from the point of view of the talent or the camera. Yeah? The motors can be used, slid into the channeled rail on the back of all of our different reflectors in the regular Dedolight Lightstream range, which are fitted with this channeled rail. For the big mother, the 100 by 100 centimeter reflector, which has no channeled rail but a yoke mount, we will soon also have a different DMX controlled motorization. For Dedolight Lightstream Lite and Dedolight Lightstream Table-Top, there's no motor control at this stage, because most of those will be well within reach for the operator.
There's a question that was expected, and this is about Christian Berger and Jakob Ballinger, his very talented gaffer. Both of them were important in this field because they were the first ones to employ reflected light with kind of a religious purity in wonderful films that showed very wonderful lighting. So they're the masters of employing such lighting systems, and this goes back for many years. Many, many years ago, I remember spending 72 hours without food and without sleep adjusting the Aton camera of Christian to run with black and white Arvey film that would not run through any other camera. So we've known each other for a long time. And I admire their work in lighting and using such a system. But when you talk about Lightbridge products, then yes, they have been using the same reflector material that anybody can buy. The carrier material is called D-bond or alucor bond, originally came from race car technology. 2 sheets of aluminium and a honeycomb in between to give it lightweight and sturdiness. The surface of it also is commonly available. Now, if I go to Home Depot and I buy a hammer, and another one goes to Home Depot and buys a hammer, how can I go and say I invented the hammer? This is commonly available tools. That they use them in a masterful way is their benefit and to their credit, and should not be underestimated. But they never produced any light. In the beginning, they used a big parallel beam light from a company called Pani. And when we were all trying to be colleagues and work together, supporting each other, working together, planning lighting seminars in daytime, at nighttime, in studios, in the outside. We had wonderful plans and dreams. And then somehow, I don't know why, and it doesn't matter, Pani became the enemy for them. And they came, Christian and Jakob, and said, can you please build a light for us that replaces the Pani beam? We will need it, we will need many of them, we'll use them all the time, and you will sell many, many, many of those. Okay, I did. that was the origin, the birth of the PB70. Whilst the dedolight and the non-spherical optics and the high focus range and the high efficiency that was awarded twice by the Oscar Committee of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences is the base, the stepping stone to go on and then design more optics, the parallel beam intensifiers, and those have absolutely nothing to do with Christian or Jakob. They have to do with Dr. Chindepu, our optical designer with whom I've worked for 30 years, and we've created many things together. And a lot of what you see is coming from this team where we develop lights. And that's our strength. And using commonly available material for reflectors and exploring those deeper and deeper. And when the manufacturer of the surfaces comes up with a new surface, of course, both of us, Jakob and I, have long ears, and we say, let's try this. Let's see what this new tool that we can buy, or you can buy in India and Japan and in USA, what does it do for us? Let's try and play with it. So the claim that this is a copy, the practice is something, the use, the excellence of lighting perfection is definitely something that Christian and Jakob excelled in, and that should not be disregarded and disrespected. But it was them who came to me and said, we'll be a team, we'll work together. Why first Pani, then Mr. Frederick Kacek, then me became the enemy, I don't know. Yeah, I continue to build my lights. They never build lights. So that's my answer for the copy. Now, back to the other question of Malcolm. The next chapter will tell you a little bit about how the impression of a lot of light and less light and what it does to the shadow character, and how to use reflectors and how to understand them a little better. So let's go on to the next chapter.
Hard light or soft light. Using dedolight Lightstream reflectors, there may often be misunderstandings. When you use a number 1 reflector, you have a more defined redirection of the incoming beam, therefore more light reaches the target. When you employ reflectors with higher numbers, number 2, 3, or 4, those feature different spread angle. They light a larger area. Thus, from the point of view of the talent to be lit, this often is perceived as softer light. It's just less light. This is not true. It is simply less light that is reaching the talent because of the wider spread and the wider distribution of the effective light. In other words, hard light and soft light is simply defined by the size of the light emitting area in relation to the distance to the object. When you have a very large light emitting surface close to the object, you will encounter a true soft light, shown even in the disappearance of shadows or a very gentle light and shadow transition. If you take a large light and a large light emitting surface at a huge distance, the light will become a hard light. For example, take the sun with a diameter of 1.4 million kilometers. When this is reaching the object unhindered by clouds or haze, it will create a very hard shadow. And nobody would talk about sunlight being a soft light. When you're placing your object in front of a huge reflecting wall, there may be no shadows perceived, and the square law may not be applicable when the object or the talent moves. Coming back to the original claim, when you're using Lightstream reflectors, regardless of their surface and their structure, you can have the appearance of a softer and gentler light with smoother transitions between light and shadow if these reflectors are placed very close to the subject. The moment you move them further away, you will have a much harder, more defined character. Now, this leads us into two diverging methods. For direct lighting of a talent's face, you may want to have a little smoothness in the transition of light and shadow, like in the very old days of movie making, when huge and also very hot lights were employed to produce direct lighting on the talent. Such devices, for example, were called Big Eye 10, a 10 kilowatt light with a super big front lens to create direct light, but at the same time allow a slightly gentler transition between light and shadow. Today, there's no more necessity to cook our talent. Our lighting fixtures have become smaller, and due to the higher sensitivity of our sensors, a much lower light level is needed. Unless you are in a setting that demands that you have to combat the influence of incoming sunlight. On the one hand, we want to keep the set as clean and clear as possible. Do away with any lighting paraphernalia, too many stands, flags, and other devices, and therefore place the reflectors at a larger distance, which will then automatically result in a harder, more structured lighting appearance. On the other hand, you may want to keep a certain amount of gentleness. So a big distance creates hard light, hard shadows. A small distance can get in the way of the picture and the well-being of the talent. I'm currently working on a new lighting practice, which will combine both of those desires and maximize comfort as well as lighting character. Now, this could be regarded as a compromise between hard and focusing light, like you get it from older focusing light fixtures with the effect of a soft light, which will allow all kinds of gradations and modifications. I'm not the only one who has been looking for such a multi-purpose solution, and I'm so excited that I found a new way to do this, that I did apply for a new patent, although I swore to myself that I'll never have a patent again, due to the extremely high cost. However, the temptation to protect this useful invention was too big. Forgive me.
I don't see any new questions, and that gives me the hope, against what I'd expected, that we may get through practically everything that is prepared. I have 2 more chapters with 3 minutes each, and then I'm done from my part. So let's go on and do the next chapter and maybe the next 2 chapters, and then see what else comes in. Let's go.
Economy and ecology. When our children walk the streets on Fridays, they talk much about ecology and climate change. We often think about electric power miraculously generated by surface mined brown coal, making the use of electrified automotive vehicles a little bit doubtful. We think about the benefits and dangers of atomic power. We think about the CO2 emissions. Often, we are not aware that the media industry is a very important contributor to climate damage, and therefore green tech application in media is often neglected. In older days, when we were lighting a small TV studio, we may have employed 30 kilowatt or even 100 kilowatt of power, making it necessary to simultaneously employ 200 or 250 kilowatt of extra power for climatization. Today, we can light the same area that was usually lit by 30 kilowatt or more with merely 970 watt of LED light. Combined with Lightstream reflectors, with the same lighting efficiency and the addition of many more creative choices. We all assume that LED lighting provides incredible savings, which to a large extent is true. But then, when we work with the dedolight Lightstream system, we even save most of our lighting fixtures, and therefore the no longer required power. Look back at the first chapter, where we describe our 1200 watt parallel beam light, which puts out more useful light over a huge distance than a 9 kilowatt HMI Array light in its spot position, actually 50% more. This applies to all of my focusing lights, especially when you add the parallel beam intensifier, which in the example that I gave for the 400 watt light adds extra 500% more light, keeping pretty much the same exit angle, thus providing a lot more useful light than can be employed in many different directions. Thus, we claim to be the masters of media ecology and economy at the same time.
I don't see any new questions, so let's go on to the last one that we prepared, and let's see what questions will come in then. Let's go.
The character of reflected light. It's not easy to define the virtues and the special character of the dedolight Lightstream system. One aspect could possibly be that light in hard reflection is polarized and gives a different appearance to skin structure and skin tones, even when the color temperature is identical. But then there's more to it that needs to be experienced by the eye of the seasoned DOP or anybody who has the ability to see light. It sounds like a joke? It's absolutely true. That even in our profession, there are not many people that I've met who can see light. Most of us simply see the reflection of light and perceive that, but are not able to describe the character of light itself. Many people, however, who have started to work with the dedolight Lightstream system perceive the emotional impact of the employment of reflected light. This is definitely not a surefire way to create an emotional impact. If employed in the many possible creative ways, it can be very beautiful, frightening, dramatic, gentle or unnoticeable. But also, bad lighting can destroy the mood, the impression, and the perception of any scene. Thus, it is a high-wire act that needs some experience and also the courage to make some mistakes along the learning curve. We have already created a big number of movies that show the use and the effect of reflected light, and those you will find on our YouTube channel, as well as on Dedo TV or on our website. Now, feel invited not only to watch, but also to the dialogue, the criticism, and to present your own creations and emotions and suggestions. Come to my sandbox, play with me. I'm waiting for you. I enjoy this very much. Best regards, I'm Dedo.
So that's the parts that we have prepared. And all I might want to add is that neither the light is a patented invention of anybody, nor reflected light. It's something that image creators have worked with since the very beginning of image creation in many different ways. I'm not the only one who's played with it, and I've had successes and I've had failures, and I found some material on the table in the airplane that was reflecting, and I sourced where it came from, and it had a wonderful character because it had a shine, a sheen to it, and it had something like a tobacco or sand color, and I loved that for the skin tones. And I had to buy 3,000 meters of it, and everybody in my company laughed at me when I tried to make little rolls of 10 meters or 30 meters. And there was an American DOP who really embraced it. That was Sol Negrin. I think his son is also a successful cameraman. But otherwise, I had no success with it. So playing with available tools, seeing what kind of look can we create, and then of course the high class of understanding what a story demands, and lighting can contribute to it, and the tools can contribute to it, but a good brush doesn't make a painter. An expensive brush doesn't make a better painter. But there are people who enjoy the tools of craftsmanship, and in lighting, some of us may believe in how to control lighting. And that's what we've been trying to do for 50 years, exploring it and trying and playing and succeeding and failing. And what keeps me alive is definitely not running a business. I'm not really suited for that. But I'm a little kid in a sandbox. And fortunately, I find like-minded people in England, in Canada, in the USA, in Germany, in Poland, in Hungary, many that I can think of, wonderfully talented people whom I can tempt to join my sandbox and play with us. And that's the invitation to everybody out there. I'm not claiming that this is the only way, never. There's no rule, and everything wants to be different. But if we want to try and build dream castles and dream worlds, because that's what we're in. We sell stories, we sell emotions. And there's such a palette that's so wide, that's so incredible, that not one can claim to be the master of everything. Although there are some who've done a lot of wonderful work. And some of those I've tried to learn from. And they were kind enough, and they took me to their house for weeks. Sometimes the top guys, sometimes the ones who are not quite so recognized, and the ones who really cared about this profession. I spent several weeks with David Quaid, who was the first one to shoot an entire feature film with fluorescent light. And he developed the filters with Roscoe and the filters with Tiffin. And he had a very, Teutonic mind. And he explained to me the procedures of checking and testing and making it all balanced and clean and reliable. I spent weeks with Ken Richter, who was a lecture filmmaker. And he built collimators. And he built for me the first 4-color light source for my Richter collimator, the same that Stanley Kubrick tried to find out which color is deposited by which lens in the same plane or in other planes. And I'm amazed. I'm a little child under the Christmas tree learning from others. And sometimes I can also tell my own stories of what I've learned. And now that leads me to the next contribution that comes from Dedotech Russia, a company led by the experienced DOP Leonid Pridorogin. At a time when there was not a single film school in Germany, he had excelled at the famous Moscow Film School, which in those days may have been one of the best in the world. And he was so brilliant that they offered him a full salary and continued to study. And then he was simultaneously my assistant and my teacher, because he told me a lot of things that I'd never heard about, that he'd learned at the school, that he'd understood and was able to convey. Today, we will see another member of the Dedotech Russia team exploring the depths of the Russian forest, not only encountering Lightstream capabilities, but also using Arvey. What is that? A novel superpower battery system beyond lithium-ion, which makes it not only safer, but also a much more capable system. So let's see whether this time we can establish the contact with Dima Andreev from our Moscow team.
For our video, we take 2 light head, 2 reflector and a multi-mirror. We won't shoot without electrical outlet and battery brick. Hello from somewhere in Russia and somewhere in forest. Today we have DLED 7, 90 watt, and it's love to work with V-lock battery, and this is no problem. But we also have 220 watt DLED 10. This is a problem, that's why we have Arvey power system. We will shoot by reflected lights. We have parallel beam attachment. It helps us concentrate our beam.
Что она делает? Она делает луч параллельным, она делает его концентрированным. Тем самым мы добиваемся большей концентрации луча в том месте, где нам нужно, и больше света на нас отражается.
For background, we use effect multi-mirror. We hope to see interesting effect on the tree. This is a 25 by 25 reflector. Another side say us this is number 4. It means this reflector have a soft and wide angle reflection. Mounting easy to fix. After that we can set up it on flexible extension for comfortable moving reflector.
гибкую платформу, чтобы нам было удобно им управлять. Мы также
Interesting thing, we can dimming our light.
Сейчас у меня в руках отражатель 50
50 by 50 in my hand.
единицы. Это почти
Number one look like a mirror.
Сейчас я переотражаю свет, который отражается на меня через отражатель номер 3.
Well, what we have? Small reflector lights on my face, big reflector it's our fill light, and don't forget about a flecked multimirror for creating background.
Тем самым мы меня отделяем от фона, и у нас какая-то более-менее прекрасная картинка.
Arvey station. This is a generator and battery in the same time. No oil, no noise, no nasty smells. Forest animals are happy.
Здравствуйте, меня зовут Александр Носовский. Я кинооператор. Сегодня я приехал в Институт современного искусства для того, чтобы показать студентам, что такое система Lightstream и какие возможности открывает работа с одним источником света, разложенный при помощи зеркал на составляющие. Эта система, которая придумана компанией Dedo, позволяет мобильно и очень элегантно сформировать стиль цвета нуар. Это очень сложный свет, он требует логики постановки своей, и он дает возможность добиться предельного контраста. Мы взяли один прибор dedolight 7.0, поставили на него прекрасную линзу и при помощи зеркал разложили по пятнам, по эффектам всего один источник света. Это такой эффект света, который очень разнообразен. У него очень много вариантов. То есть малейшие изменения поворота отражения зеркала, и получается совершенно другой эффект. У нас получился сегодня прекрасный день. Благодаря удивительному, прекрасному, замечательному эффекту Lightstream.
Hi again. You just see a video from one of the workshop of Alexander Nasovsky. And now you see a photo from Arkhangelsk. We was with workshop 2. Here it was today after practical. After theory, we use Livestream in practical, and you see a good picture with the actress, with our model. It's a good effect, and everybody likes this light. Thank you. Ciao.
Okay, bin ich dran? Ja. Okay. Thank you, Dima. This streaming session was supposed to be more or less international today because of the pandemic and also personal restrictions. Kannst du es bewegen? We will see no active participation of Dedolight California. Instead, we will play a contribution or several contributions from the United Kingdom. The first exploration of Lightstream Lite by Jason and Jono. Their company is called Reflectors, as well as Ian Murray, who is a renowned and successful DOP, mainly famous for his master shootings of commercials with Dedolight Lightstream system elements, and his first meeting with Lightstream Lite, and then as well as some elements from Lily Krasteva, who is our only in-house lady filmmaker and DOP. So let's look how that goes.
What have we got inside? So lots
of
lightweight reflectors, and this is the basis of the system. You can see they are light, simple reflectors with a hot shoe on the back.
Yeah, there's two number ones, two number twos, and one number three.
So then he's got these little bendy arms that go on the hot shoe, and then they'll just screw into that little hole there. There we go, look. Nice. So there's the system for clamping the reflectors. Now, for all his lights, Dedo has made what we call parallel beam intensifiers, and he's made one for the Ledzilla. This is a really new way of using this Ledzilla light. Again, light lights and all using batteries. So you can imagine we can build a little lighting kit that all just runs off batteries and tiny little lights.
So the PBI collimates the light, and it kind of makes it to like a 2 or 5 degree spot, which means the light can travel further with still the same intensity, and it gives all kinds of magical things like extends, fall off, helps create natural looking parallel shadows.
So the thing I love about Lightstream Lite, it allows me to put lights really simply into a place where normally rigging will be required. And certainly in locations where you can't affect the walls, that would be very tricky to do. One of the big battles I have with locations at the moment is how to get backlight effectively up. You sometimes have quite a low ceiling, so the light needs to be pushed right into the corner of where the ceiling meets the wall. And to get that on a rig without a stand being in shot, it can be really tricky to do that, and it takes time. And we just don't have time on sets these days to be able to, have that luxury of elaborate rigging. So to be able to basically just place a light, like you're placing a post-it note on a wall, to be able to just place a light somewhere is revolutionary, really. And so what Dedo's done really cleverly with this system is he's thought about the way you rig these. They're super lightweight to begin with. So if that did fall off the wall for whatever reason, it's not going to hurt someone. And he's got these various systems of rigging it. So firstly, it's got this flexible arm, which is this metal that can be bent, and it doesn't change position. So once it's in position, it just holds its position. So you don't get any kind of light drooping effect. And it has this little camera shoe that locates basically into the back of the reflector. And then you just have a wheel that you tighten up, and then you have this reflector on your arm. And this can be clamped on anything that this will fit around. And you can see it's absolutely rigid. And you can just move it around to find your light position. So as you can see, wherever you position it, it sort of holds its position very well.
Okay, so here's another little setup. No stands, just a simple Dedo clamp, and I've got these little clamps. I've got a number 3 here, and I've got my PBI on my Lightzilla. I'm just popping this on here, and I'm going to stick that in. You can see I'm lighting where the kettle is, and again, the beauty with the reflectors, lightweight setup, 2 different lights happening off the same light. So I've got that. I'm using the number 3 behind it, but I'm also putting another hotter spot.
And that's quite incredible if you think that's just an 8-watt lamp. And I think just how, again, just how little room this is taking up. You know, this is it's reasonably weighty with the PBI on it, but the clamp and the mounts are taking it.
And again, you know, it's bi-colour as well, so we can just match into the kitchen a bit more.
Yeah,
and this could be
without a big
anywhere.
truck.
I mean, you know, we're in my kitchen, but actually we could be in the jungle, or we could be just working off batteries.
Yeah.
And this could be the way you set up an interview. So you've got a hard key and a soft fill, and it's all just working off one light. And then you've got in the background, you've got another one of these just lighting the background. So yeah, really quite a nice little setup. And of course, bi-colour as well.
Now, as I say, that's one thing, being able to have such a lightweight reflector that you can put anywhere without the need for big rigging. But what if you can't clamp that onto anything? You know, hopefully there's a bit of woodwork or something that you can clamp that onto in a location. But say you don't have that, then what Dedo's done, I really, really love this. Basically, it's like a big lump of putty here that basically allows us to basically fix that with the putty in, right, like I said, right into the corner, top corner of a room or something, or behind a cabinet, or wherever you need to hide it. You can fix it directly with the putty without the worry of kind of ruining furniture or wall dressing.
So here's another final little look at these little paddle things with these reflectors. I put a bit of plaster on there, and you know, here's another little way of attaching a reflector. Just pop that in there, tighten that up, and then look, if I just put my PBI that we had on from before, I'm lighting into here. You know, you can imagine the shot here, but I'm just lighting through there, just with that, just sitting in there. Obviously, we don't want it moving like that, but yeah, really bright. Lovely.
As I say, the whole system is so lightweight that these 4 little pins will allow you to pin a reflector to a wall without causing any damage apart from a tiny little pinhole. So that's kind of ingenious, I think. And then it might seem, when you see this kit, you might think these little fiddly accessories, and are they going to have a use? Well, I can tell you, working in the world I work in, this is exactly what we need. We need a system whereby we can dispense with all of the rigging requirements, and we can get light exactly where we want it. Like basically placing a post-it note on a wall. You can place a reflector on a wall with this putty, or the pins, or with the articulated arm, and you can get the light exactly where you need it.
How lightweight they are and how lightweight the clamping and mounting tools are, it's pretty obvious they are going to allow you more options to put reflectors where you wouldn't normally think.
They're just a handy piece of kit, and the control you get out of each different reflector is fantastic. They are just beautiful, beautiful ways to light.
What do we need to know? What do we need to learn in order to employ such systems? There is the story of the young lady walking down Broadway, asking the older man, "How do I get to Carnegie?" And the old man says, "Practice, practice, practice." So just take it, learn from the tutorial videos that we do, but learn by doing it yourself, making your own mistakes, and thus exploring. We have a beautiful video from Jeffrey Weil. He's an American, I think from Oregon, who speaks perfect Chinese. He's worked a lot in China, and he and his Chinese gaffer employed the PB70, and they were using it to build a huge soft light, putting a big butterfly in front of it. And then they said, well, maybe that's not it. Next segment of their movie was how they were in a bank and they put the reflector outside and reflected the sunlight into it. Same I've done in the 60s and 70s in my films in Indonesia, where I took tabletops and I put reflective material called Roscoe Flex on top of it, and there was a glue called Roscoe Bond, and you can make a hard reflector, soft reflector, crumpled reflector, and I kicked the sunlight into the roofs of the buildings, and I put more reflective material there to light the entire scenes. So whichever way you do it, somebody has done it before, and you discover something new. Now, we sent a bunch of our motors to Francois, our very talented, inventive colleague in Canada, and he explored the motors for the first time, finding some obvious advantages and capabilities of the system, also finding the limitations of putting too much weight and double reflectors onto the same motors, and they're not meant for that. We're working on different developments in that direction, and that's another venue that we'll take in the future. So let's look of what Francois discovered in a quickie, because he knew he wanted to give us some material for this presentation. So let's see what he does. That's our contribution from Munich for today. Thanks to the team that supported this in Munich. Thanks for the questions. Thanks for your participation. Allow me to point out that we do have a lot of explanations and tutorial videos on YouTube, an abundance of it. And there's also Dedo TV. And if you're tempted to join my playground, feel invited. I have to admit I'm not very good and happy on social media. I look at it, but I don't use it every day like some of the kids do. So if you want to get in contact with me, use my email. That surprisingly is Weigert at dedoweigertfilm.de for Germany, Deutschland. So, and anybody who has questions, suggestions, criticism, and wants to play with us, feel welcome. And that's my goodbye. And now we want to switch to the goodbye from Moscow, from the Dedotech Russia team, and then to our partners in Düsseldorf. So, thank
you. Thank you for watching. And now turn to Düsseldorf. Take care.
Bin ich dran? Okay, so everybody, you've seen a lot about the Lightstream system, but nothing beats hands-on experience. So there is the opportunity, of course, in Munich. There's the opportunity to see it in Düsseldorf. And in September, we will be in Hamburg for the Photopia, who sets out to replace Photokina for a live event and in-person exhibition on photography and, of course, filming as well. So we will be there, we will be presenting the PV70, we will have a very, very exciting live schedule going on. So keep an eye on that and maybe come to Hamburg. Also the guys from Denmark, Norway, closer by, you might be able to touch the Lightstream system and get first-hand experience. You can rent it in Düsseldorf, you can rent it in Munich, and you can see it live in Hamburg. So come by, see what we got, and learn a lot. So bye from Düsseldorf, and see you soon, I hope.